Shadow of the Colossus meets Breath of the Wild meets Horizon Zero Dawn. Yellow Brick Games' debut title, Eternal Strands, takes you on a journey through Denevron, an area locked away due to a large magical cataclysm years ago. You play a young weaver of magic and a scout in a successful band of adventurers. You must fight your way through Denevron to find out what happened in this magical area so long ago, trying to find a way out while fighting off the creatures that lurk inside. Today we are going to be breaking this game down and giving you everything you need to know before you buy it. This is something we do regularly here at the Indie Brew, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more indie game content. And without further ado, let's jump into the magical world of Eternal Strands. In this game you play as Bryn, a weaver or a magic user, who recently joined a new adventuring band. During a regular scouting mission, your party fumbles into an area known as the Enclave, and you become the first weavers to do so since the area was sectioned off. The story is a underdog, sort of lost all hope style of story with twists and turns around most corners. There are extra parts of the story to explore through the side missions, but the main missions and main storyline itself does hold its own. With enjoyable characters and interesting location lore, the story is definitely one to pay attention to. I will say that towards the end, the NPC dialogue scenes got a little bit too much for me, but it wasn't enough to dissuade me from continuing to play the game. For myself, the story felt so familiar, yet like something I'd never heard of before. Something like a one-shot or session from a D&D campaign. Honestly, I'd love to play D&D in this world. The environment of Eternal Strands is one of the highlights of the game. With different areas around the Enclave to explore, the developers did a good job to make each area unique, but also make it feel like you weren't on a completely different continent. The overall design and atmosphere, mixed with the weather changing system that they've got set up, created new obstacles every time you left the camp. Another big part of the environment setting was the destruction. Pretty much the entire environment is destructible. Aside from a few really large buildings or some like strange undestructible metal gates, this did make the big fights interesting because you took cover behind a building or behind a large rock or a tree or something like that. And next thing you know, it's destroyed and you're scrambling to try and find somewhere to hide or moving into attack. Overall, the design and functionality of the environment within Eternal Strands was great. And further in the game, there is a power that makes moving through this area extremely fun as well. Now, the combat mechanics are a big part of this game. It is not your standard hack and slash. And as I mentioned earlier, the environment does play a big part of the combat. But as Bryn, we have access to three main mechanics, and they are the weapons, the strand powers or our magic, and the environment itself. With your weapons, you get access to a sword and board. So sword and shield, you get a two-handed heavy weapon as well as a bow. Now each of these can be crafted using different things to create different powers as well as being fully upgradable. So there is a lot of variety within the standard melee combat area. Next up, we've got the powers themselves, or the strands, and you have fire strands, ice strands, and telekinetic strands. Now the fire strand sets pretty much everything around it on fire, including the enemies and including yourself. I didn't actually use this too much in the early game, as well as the ice, but I wish I had have, because it does become extremely important later on in the game. And it's nice to know those things. The ice strand freezes enemies into place, but you can also use it to create bridges across gaps or walls around enemies to kind of section them off. You can either get away across a bridge or deal with multiple enemies while providing some form of cover. There are other things these two are used for, but I'm going to leave spoilers for another video. I really want you guys to try this out and see it all for yourself. The telekinesis strand was the one that I used the most, and it got me out of so many tough moments. The ability to pick up almost anything around you and just yeet it at your opponent was absolutely magical. Or even just picking up the enemy themselves and throwing them off a cliff. So many good shots there. This is where the environment comes in, utilizing every object or material that's around you to try and deal damage to your enemy. It's a good addition to the combat repertoire. Now, speaking of the enemies in Eternal Strands are all unique, each having their own strength and weaknesses, as well as having little things to help them make your journey painful. You have these little lava mosquitoes that like spit fire at you, causing the ground to turn on fire. They are annoying. You have these little chameleons, these invisible chameleons that spit acid at you and do chip damage, and you just can't see where they are. They are equally as annoying. There's also these frost hounds or frost dogs that attack you but cause a layer of ice around them, making it slow for you and also chipping away at your health. And another one that's extremely annoying. They're not all annoying though. Some of them are just standard enemies, but there is a good variety within the mix. Not to mention the arcs, actually, the robots, the corrupted robots. They all have their own different shapes and sizes that they come in, as well as their own abilities. But the key standout, and why I initially compared it to Shadow of the Colossus, are the large arcs and the beasts that you have to fight in order to progress, and also to upgrade your strand powers. These guys can be tough, and it did take a little bit of preparation before each fight to actually get to being able to fell them. The bosses were fun and they were intricate. Some of them even had specific conditions that needed to be met to show their strand, the thing that you would then go and use to upgrade. So there was, like I said, there was that level of preparation needed, or even experimentation, trying to hit the different things to get the strand to open up. Unfortunately, once you have fought them a couple of times, they do kind of just become a little bit more like your standard enemies. Once you know the pattern and where the key points to hit are, they go down pretty quickly. But luckily enough, Eternal Strands, coming in at around about 20-ish hours of playtime, wasn't long enough for that to become an actual issue. So overall, the enemies and the combat were mostly enjoyable throughout the entire game. Eternal Strands was a great debut from a new indie game company, and the animations and the art style alone were impressive enough to get me excited for the game. The first time I seen the Vox Machina style animations at the start for some of the cutscenes, I was really excited because you don't see animations like that in video games, and it's cool seeing a company try a new medium. With a story I'd love to see more of and such an amazing world to explore, I really enjoyed my time playing this game. Now, for those that are looking to pick it up, it does come in relatively cheap compared to other games at 59 Australian dollars. But if you do have the Xbox Game Pass, it is already on there, ready for you to go and download it. So what are you waiting for? I'm hoping to see more from Yellow Brick Games and hope they can continue to build on their current ideas and create something equally as fun as this one. And that was my first thoughts on Eternal Strands and everything you need to know before buying it. We would love to know what you think about this one. Have you picked it up? Are you looking to pick it up? Let us know down in the comments below. If you're looking for more indie game recommendations, click right here. And until next time, stay caffeinated.